I asked him about the two unfamiliar men who had shown up at my place late the previous night and questioned why they would come to a house that should have only had Emily and me. My brother's voice trembled as he expressed relief that we were safe, but his worry didn't seem to stem from concern for us or the intruders. His eyes shifted uneasily as he answered. My insistence made my sister-in-law cut me off. She called Emily over loudly and urged her to leave. Emily, who had been playing in the other room, timidly appeared. Her mother took her hand forcefully, and my brother's demeanor changed as well. He stated that he wasn't forgiving me, but they were leaving for the day. They pushed Emily toward the door. Despite my attempts to halt them, they ignored me, not even bothering to look back. Emily, clearly resisting, reached out for me. I quickly shielded her behind me, protecting her from their forceful attempts to take her home. My sister-in-law raised her voice in surprise, letting go of Emily's hand, but I kept Emily behind me, away from them. They exchanged aggressive words and moved toward us in anger. My husband and I stood our ground, determined not to let them take Emily. We managed to push them out of the room. At the front door, waiting police officers swiftly apprehended my brother and his wife. The police tried to calm the disoriented couple who clearly hadn't expected this outcome. Understanding their situation, my brother argued that if we didn't return their daughter, we should be detained. My sister-in-law pleaded that we had taken Emily from their home and locked her up here, urging the police to save Emily immediately. They insisted that we were the ones who should be detained and restrained us from intervening further. I won't run or hide, so let me go. My brother's voice echoed in the tense atmosphere. Behind me, Emily and my daughter observed the scene, looking bewildered. My daughter innocently pointed out that Emily didn't seem locked up at all. Whether my brother heard her or not, he turned to Emily and ordered her to come to him in a firm tone. But his severity frightened Emily, and she clung to my side, unwilling to leave. My sister-in-law stood by the police officer, observing my brother without attempting to call Emily over. My brother's frustration escalated. He yelled from the entrance, his actions restrained by the police. Seeing this, my husband confronted my brother with his smartphone, capturing his attention. I instructed Emily and my daughter to wait in the other room and closed the door so they wouldn't hear the audio. Once confirmed, my husband played a video he had recorded at my brother's house the previous night without a word. Watching it, my brother and his wife turned pale. The video began with the slow turn of a key in the lock, indicating they had used a spare key. Two men entered the room quietly, seemingly in high spirits. They exchanged greetings, mentioning my brother's name and discussing a discount. One man glanced at my husband and his friends, saying my brother had mentioned a 30% discount because I was his sister. When my husband's friend evaded their question, another man boasted of a larger discount due to their close friendship with my brother and his wife, even mentioning a specific amount. They continued, mentioning they were lucky to play with the kids that day. The laughter of one of the men had a grotesque quality to it, evoking a sense of unease. Though I couldn't see the screen, the audio alone was enough to send shivers down my spine. Following this, my husband's friend interrogated the men, asking about their frequent visits and whether they always came together. Sensing something amiss, the men inquired about Emily and me. Seeing my husband's anger, they realized we were not friendly to their intentions. Understanding the danger, they hurriedly left. The video concluded, leaving my brother and his wife visibly shaken. My husband presented the evidence, which showed their visitors planning sinister activities. My brother, initially close acquaintances with these men, seemed to have seen the video for the first time, his face drained of color. He desperately claimed innocence, stating he didn't know anything and that he had been framed. Watching the video, I had previously thought my brother was unaware of their plans and that my sister-in-law was the mastermind. Yet, the video provided undeniable proof of my brother's involvement, as he had offered Emily and me to these men. My brother's pleas of ignorance were unconvincing. The police took him into custody, while my sister-in-law pretended to be unaware. However, the police officer, having heard Emily's account, asked her to accompany him for questioning. Consequently, they both ended up in custody. In subsequent interrogations, my brother and his wife confessed to their deeds and were arrested. It turned out my sister-in-law lured men into their home on nights my brother worked late shifts, receiving money from them. Realizing a demand for children in certain circles, she exploited Emily without breaking the law. Emily, who was unaware, posed for photos, believing she was helping her mother. These seemingly innocent images were developed and shown to customers, sparking bidding wars as if at an auction. Shockingly, my sister-in-law never sold these pictures, she only lent them out. Though this was despicable, it should have had no connection to my husband and me. However, my brother, upon discovering his wife's illicit business, didn't reprimand her or protect his daughter. Instead, unbelievably, he recruited men to become customers, driven by the notion that more staff meant more revenue. With a disturbingly simplistic mindset, he roped me into the business. Unable to convince me if he asked directly, my brother resorted to threats and coercion, using photos to manipulate me. They selected a day when the neighbors wouldn't be around, locking Emily and me in their house. They exchanged their spare key for a large sum of money and left town for an overnight trip to establish their alibi. What they hadn't anticipated was Emily's regret at revealing the monster story, an attempt to protect me from their sinister plans. Emily couldn't comprehend most of the unsettling events occurring around her, but she understood that the monsters were a threat. Her revelation about the dire situation at my brother's house prompted me to ask my husband to capture evidence of these so-called monsters. The police acted swiftly upon receiving our report and leaked information, and we involved Child Protective Services to safeguard Emily. We informed the police officer about my brother and his wife's visit, leading to Emily's separation from them. My brother and his wife faced serious charges for violating child welfare laws and exploiting children, resulting in their imprisonment despite being first-time offenders. Shockingly, the images they had taken over the years were deemed highly malicious, with digital leaks being irrevocable. Fortunately, my sister-in-law hadn't digitized or shared Emily's photos, averting potential harm. I couldn't fathom how my once kind and dependable brother had turned into a monstrous individual. Our seemingly normal relationship was tainted by this disturbing revelation. I wanted them to face the consequences of their actions. After their arrest, the so-called monsters were questioned by the police. They claimed innocence, arguing that their plans hadn't succeeded. Yet, their possession of others' child photographs and involvement in other crimes, revealed during my brother and his wife's interrogations, led to their arrest on multiple charges. With the monsters dealt with, we approached Child Protective Services to address Emily's situation. Her parents' arrest rendered them unfit guardians, resulting in custody being taken away. Since my sister-in-law's family was estranged, Emily faced foster care unless we stepped in. After discussing it with my husband, we decided to adopt Emily. She wasn't just someone I was indebted to, but had also grown to love as my own daughter. The thought of parting with her was unbearable, and luckily, my husband agreed. This decision prompted us to relocate to my in-laws' town, a place our daughter adores due to her grandparents' presence. Our daughter's dream of an older sister also came true with Emily's arrival. Freed from her abusive parents, Emily adapted remarkably well to her new environment as an older sister. Kid's resilience astounded me, and she embarked on a happier, more peaceful life. Hey, are you sleeping there? While my brother and his wife are away on a trip, I'm taking care of my niece at his house. As we excitedly discussed our plans for tomorrow, my niece started to open the closet door, seemingly getting ready for bed. To my surprise, she slid into the closet without hesitation as I quickly grabbed her arm. She looked up at me with a puzzled expression. Let me introduce myself. I'm Lily, a 24-year-old housewife. I have a brother who's 5 years older than me. Since we lost our parents, we've always supported each other, maintaining a strong sibling bond. Even after getting married, our family-oriented relationship didn't change. While my in-laws are kind, they live far away, a plane ride's distance. So, asking for their help isn't easy. My brother and his wife had a hasty wedding. But since his wife had a falling out with her parents, they've been distant. With no nearby neighbors to turn to, we found comfort in each other's support. Both our families have been blessed with daughters. My niece and my daughter, Alice, grew up as close as real sisters. As time passed, Emily, my niece, was about to turn 10 when my brother told me about their upcoming 10th wedding anniversary trip. Would you mind looking after Emily while we're away? It's just an overnight trip nearby. We thought it would be nice to have some alone time as a couple. Blushing happily, my brother asked, and I readily agreed. Days went by uneventfully until the day of their anniversary trip. I went to stay at my brother's house as Emily, looking nervous, watched her parents leave. Holding her hand, I reassured her. It was just us for the house sitting. Initially, I planned to bring Alice along, but Emily insisted otherwise. So, I let go of that plan. We had visited as a family before, but there was a reason Emily didn't want Alice over that day. It's a shame we can't invite Alice to play, Emily said with a hint of loneliness. I suggested that we go to my house after breakfast the next day, and she lit up with excitement. I had prepared some challenging games and puzzles, considering Emily's preferences. We spent time playing and preparing dinner together. Yet, Emily seemed nervous the whole time, staying close to me and glancing around frequently. At first, I thought it was because she missed her parents, but her behavior remained odd. When I asked if something was wrong, she kept saying she was fine without revealing what was bothering her. Emily's behavior was as if she was guarding against something invisible, and I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the situation. The mystery of her behavior remained, leaving me puzzled and concerned. The true significance of it all only dawned on me come bedtime. Emily changed into her pajamas and with a grin said, "Let's sleep early today and then head to Aunt Lily's house in the morning." She opened the closet door, revealing a set of neatly prepared bedding. My comprehension lagged as Emily promptly lay down on the mattress and started to shut the closet door, saying her good nights. I burst out, "Wait, Emily. You're sleeping in there." My voice sounded louder than intended. Emily responded with a serious expression, "Yes, but it's all right. I'll leave it slightly open. If anything happens, I'll wake up immediately." I tried to mask my bewilderment as I suggested, "How about we sleep together tonight?" After a few attempts, Emily reluctantly agreed and got into my bed. She asked if she could keep the bedding in the closet as her hideout. Even though this deepened the enigma, I agreed naturally. Curiosity got the better of me, and I asked her with cheer, "Why do you need a hiding place?" After extracting my promise not to laugh, she whispered her answer, "The monster is coming." But if that were all, I'd have found it cute in the way children's stories are. However, what Emily revealed next was enough to make me consider the monster's existence. Emily trembled and clung to me, stating, "The monster is very scary and clever. It only appears when Daddy isn't here. Mommy says I can't leave the closet until she's chased the monster away. She cries while driving it off." I tried helping her once, but the pounding on the closet door was too terrifying. Holding Emily, who was shaking, I sighed inwardly. This monster seemed real, not a bedtime ploy. Caught off guard by my sister-in-law's affair, I felt at a loss. If the monster was her paramour, it wouldn't target this house when she's not around. Yet, Emily believed it showed up when her father wasn't home. Today, when my brother was absent, she insisted we don't invite my daughter over, sticking close to me and watching the windows and the front door. Thinking of sweet Emily and my brother's trust in his wife fueled my anger toward my sister-in-law. But calming Emily was my top priority. I held her hand and assured her, "It's okay, Aunt Lily is here today. The monster is smart, right? It might get scared and stay away because it sees a stranger. Also, your mom, who usually faces the monster, is with your dad today, so it can't approach her. Though still unaware of the monster's true nature, Emily's anxious expression began to ease. To keep her mind off it, I suggested that we both hide in the closet and discuss any concerns she had about the monster. I hoped that by addressing each worry, she'd eventually drift off to sleep. But hearing another piece of information from Emily, I couldn't sit still and ended up dashing out of the house with her in her pajamas. I swiftly drove back home, explained the situation to my husband, and he hurried to my brother's house. I had him and his friends stay over. Around 10 p.m. that night, after my husband and his friends had left for my brother's house, I received a call from my vacationing brother inquiring about Emily's well-being. He reminded me to lock up and get some rest. I was given a stern warning not to leave the house, and I struggled to maintain a steady voice. After ending the call, I glanced at the peacefully sleeping Emily and my daughter, vowing to protect them from the monster. The following morning, my husband returned after spending the night at my brother's place. As he recounted the events of the previous night, fear and anger coursed through me. I was relieved that my decision to leave had been right. I spent the day at home with Emily and my family, waiting for my brother and his wife to come to collect her. When my brother saw us, he immediately questioned why Emily and I had left the house during the night. He asked why we hadn't stayed at his place as we had agreed and why we had returned to our own home. His stern reproach for breaking the promise made me feel uneasy. I calmly asked him how he knew we weren't at his house while he was on vacation. My brother admitted to giving Emily a smartphone with GPS. However, if that were true, he wouldn't have insisted so strongly on the phone last night for us not to leave the house. He could have easily checked the GPS to see that we weren't there. Suppressing the urge to confront my brother outright, I continued the conversation in hushed tones to prevent the kids from hearing.